and welcome to the seventh edition of the AtomicErgo podcast. I am your host, Earl Ray Neal, and I am really excited today, first of all, to have an internationally renowned speaker and expert in his field, and also something close to my heart, another Earl. So I'm happy to have Dr. Earl Blair with me today. Welcome, Dr. Blair. How are you, sir?
Doing great today, and thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. It's a privilege. Just so our listening audience can know who we are talking with today, Dr. Blair has an MS in Safety Management from West Virginia University, has an EdD in Vocational Education from the University of Kentucky, CSP and Board Certified Safety Professionals. He's a fellow of the American Society of Safety Professionals, a lecturer in safety management at Indiana University, and the principal at Blair International LLC since 1992 until now. Formerly, he's been a professor and director of the grad program at Indiana University, an associate in safety performance solutions, an assistant professor at OKY and safety loss prevention, in safety and health coordination at Baxter Labs, and is an international keynote speaker. So it's such a privilege to have you with us today. So my first question for you, Dr. Blair, is how and why did you decide on a career in safety and health management?
Sure. Well, I had an undergrad degree in psychology, and that didn't really do me a lot of good as far as a career goes. So I did a bunch of kind of small jobs, and I was working at a car dealership in Lexington, Kentucky, and that was like one of three jobs I held at the time. And we were dispatchers, and there was a girl in there about my age. We were in our 20s that who told me that her husband, they were getting ready to move to Florida, and she said her husband had just majored in safety. And this is the late 70s, and there wasn't a lot of information about safety out there. And she said he went to Indiana, Pennsylvania, IUP. Well, that's not a big school, but they have a big safety program there. And she said the engineers and the programs at IUP kind of laughed at her husband and said, "What do you want to do when you get out? You want to direct traffic?" You know, she made these motions, you know, like you're directing traffic. And she said, "Well, he got 5 job interviews and he got 5 job offers, and they were getting ready to move to Daytona Beach because he was going to be the safety manager at General Electric. I believe it was General Electric in Daytona Beach." So I was thinking, you know, here I am kind of knocking around doing a few little jobs, and it sounded like something that, you know, would fit my personality and that interested me. So I looked up there. Like I say, there wasn't a lot of information, but I contacted the National Safety Council and found out, since I had an undergrad degree, I found out which programs offered masters in safety. And one of them that was fairly well known was West Virginia University, which is maybe 3 or 4 hours from central Kentucky there. And I've told some people the reason I chose that is because the girl that answered the phone said, "We'd love to have you come to West Virginia University." So that got me into the profession.
Well, as it turns out, you're recognized internationally as a safety and health behavioralist, and you've been trained by Dr. Scott Geller. How did you take the behavioral path, and what are the stats on behaviors versus conditions?
Oh, sure. Well, after they terminated me at Eastern Kentucky University, I called Scott Geller up. I'd read his book on the psychology of safety, and in fact, you know, at a conference or something, there was a big long line of people, and he had just signed it, you know, and so I called Scott Geller in Blacksburg, Virginia, and I left a message. He wasn't there, and I said, "Look, I'm out of work right now, and you know, I'm a certified safety professional. I just got my doctorate, you know, which they love at Safety Performance Solutions. He's won every award they've got at Virginia Tech, you know, as far as a professor goes. I got 12 years of industrial safety experience, and so they were real excited for me to come to Virginia and Safety Performance Solutions, and I was really glad. We had 4 children, and I was glad to have some work, and especially to go with somebody that was he really is well known, in the field. I always tell people, if you ever get a chance, or just go on to YouTube and to those talks they do now, and you can find him there as well. But I basically didn't know anything about behavior-based safety, BBS, at the time. And but I read his book twice before I went to Virginia for the interview. And he said, Earl, you know our stuff better than the other 4 partners. And so I guess I was excited about it, and I learned it. Well, regarding behaviors versus conditions, there's different opinions and different things you see about that, and there's certainly some studies out there. DuPont's done some things on it, and all suggesting that over 85%, maybe even sometimes you'll see over 90% of incidents are caused by behavior. Well, the more modern thinking is that the proximal cause, the closest cause to an incident is usually a behavior. But then there's things behind the behavior that influence the behavior in the culture and the management systems and things like that. So the behavior immediately precedes an incident, but rather than looking at behaviors as causes, there's a tendency now for a lot of the authors and experts in the field to look at behavior as symptoms of deeper issues within an organization. So it may be the pace of work and the deadlines and the massive amount of emphasis that's put on production, let's say, versus, and no countervailing priorities that are put on safety, even though they may say, safety's number one. It may not really be. So, since I've been in safety, my thinking has kind of evolved from looking so much at employees' behaviors to more at management's behaviors, because those behaviors are leveraged, and if you've got somebody, and I've seen this personally, if you've got somebody at the top that's passionate about safety, and they're really serious about it, and like I say, there's a number of case studies on this, it really comes through, and that's what makes a difference. You can't just expect employees to pick it up and say, okay, we're going to be engaged, and we're going to solve the issues, and things like that. It really it takes both. Obviously it takes the hourly employees and the management, but it starts with the leadership and with the management.
So I'd like for you to use this platform today. You speak internationally to executive leaders in safety and health, and I'd like for you to use our podcast to send whatever message that you would like to send to that community about what you feel like needs to happen at the highest level of leadership, to promote the future of the safety and health industry.
Sure. Well, one of the things, and sometimes, even when I've done workshops in behavior-based safety and so forth, it seems like I'm kind of speaking to the wrong audience, because the people that really make the decisions are at higher levels. And so in probably around the world, but certainly in the US culture, we really push for short-term performance, in our organizations. For the stockholders, are we going to have a profit over the next few months or the next quarter? And so a lot of times, leaders will say, safety's number one, but employees don't believe that they really believe it, because their actions show that they're pushing for production, to get the job done, to meet the deadlines, to make profits, which is the purpose of the work. But what we'd like to see is that safety is not necessarily a priority that shifts around, but a value. And so when we do production, Paul O'Neill, who was the head of the CEO of Alcoa, he said he wants safety to be not a condition, but a precondition. He said, when we breathe, when we go to work, he said he wants you to work safely, like that to be a value. So I think that the higher the level you can go and have people that are concerned about safety, the better. So after British Petroleum, Texas City in 2005, 15 people people died there. Deepwater Horizon, 2010, I think there were 11 fatalities. All these had numerous injuries, cost millions, I guess billions of dollars, to the organization. There's a guy named Andrew Hopkins that wrote a book, and these are some of the books I'm reading now. I don't know if the camera won't bring that on, but Failure to Learn is the title. And so he talks about how this same incident happened in the North Sea and many other locations at British Petroleum, but there hadn't been any fatalities, and they really didn't. There's all kinds of issues in there, but it had to do with the culture. And Andrew Hopkins is a sociologist in Australia, and he comes in and he does these investigations. And his latest book is called Sacrificing Safety, came out about 6 months ago, Lessons for Chief Executives. It's a real thin book. Again, you won't be able to see it. Less than 100 pages. And I highly recommend that book because he looks at it from a sociologist standpoint, and he gives these lessons about getting safety up to the board level to where the decisions are made that we are going to have some focus. And the book goes into great detail in a recent case in Australia and cases in England and the United States about where there's kind of a disconnect, between what they say at the top and then what they really get done when it comes to safety, especially at high risk organizations.
So you currently teach an undergrad course in ergonomics, I believe, at Indiana University. So that's got to be an interesting undertaking for you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I and also at Eastern Kentucky University, I taught an undergrad and a grad level ergonomics course as well. I usually I cover the basics. The thing to me that's interesting about ergonomics, because these students mostly are safety majors, they're going to go into the field. Some of them are kinesiology majors, so they know a lot about ergonomics. But what's interesting to me is that if you do a good job with ergonomics, this isn't just useful to the safety performance, but it's also, it helps morale, it helps production. It's a great thing for an organization to do. So this is, I want students to understand ergonomics really well, so that they'll be prepared to become safety professionals.
So if you were advising a safety and health student on a career path, sort of generally, what would you say to them?
Sure. Well, I'm biased, of course, but I think the safety field overall is fantastic. And I've seen it with my own eyes. I mean, if you're walking and breathing and you get a degree in this, you pretty much, you can do it. And I've seen it from students from Eastern Kentucky University, from other universities, from Indiana University as well. My basic, and some of them, a lot of students get into it because they have a relative, a parent, or somebody that's in the field, and they know about it. And when we did promotions at EKU, we would have these tables, and everybody would go to Homeland Security, let's say, and they had a big screen, and everybody wanted to be a CI, and they wanted to do the stuff they saw on TV. But a lot of times when their parents come in, this is high school kids, the parents would come to my table, because they knew the safety pro at Ford Motor Company, or at Toyota or Lilly or somewhere like that, and they knew what this profession was like. So the thing is, there's a huge demand for safety professionals right now, and the career offers a lot of variety. There's almost every industry, including manufacturing, construction, healthcare, government, consulting, energy sector, just to name a few. They all need safety professionals. And so our students get good paying jobs as soon as they graduate. And I've got, I could go on and on with stories that they're practically unbelievable about what some of the students have done. But I would say that, my wife and I have 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. Our oldest son, he went into safety as a safety engineer. And he mainly did ergonomic evaluations at Cook Medical. Cook Medical is owned by Bill Cook, who is the wealthiest guy in Indiana. Now probably his son. Bill Cook passed away, but That's beside the point. And so Robert worked for 6 or 7 years for Cook, and then he decided about a year ago that his passion is to be a professional gambler. so,
Okay.
so he's been out the World Series and won some money out there. Then more recently, in I believe it's 2020, our youngest daughter, she was just working a job where she was kind of punching the clock and things. She had an undergrad degree in communications from Indiana Wesleyan, and she was leaving the outlet mall off of I-65, and a motorcycle pulled in front of her, and she collided with it. Neither one of them saw each other. That some cars let the motorcycle through, and my daughter was in a right lane that was clear. And the lady on the back was the spouse, had to have her leg amputated.
Oh.
And so that was really traumatic for our daughter. And so she decided, I think at that point, hey, maybe this safety stuff's pretty important. And so she went into our grad program. And so I was her professor for a class or two on this in the program that I helped to start. And then she got an internship at a major metal manufacturing company in Indianapolis. They make rocket boosters for SpaceX and stuff like that.
Okay.
And she's been really passionate about safety. And they told her, they hired her when she was an intern, and they said, when you graduate, you got a full-time job with us. And that happens a lot. There are a lot of students that they either get the job as soon as they graduate, or they get the job before they graduate.
Right. Your passion for your chosen field is evident to me, and I see why our founder and chief visionary officer Steve Davis credits you as his professor of maybe 3 decades ago in his very first safety and health class, as the person who specifically motivated him to get involved in this industry. And he says that you made a statement in one of your lectures that still dings around in his head from time to time, and it was something about when safety went from your head to your heart. Obviously that's something that means something to you. So in closing, if you don't mind, share a little bit with us about what that statement means to you, because it obviously had a profound impact on our founder.
Yeah, so I do remember that, and the thing that had happened right before I said, that safety went from my head to my heart. I told a story about in my first job in safety. So I had the background in psychology and the graduate degree from WVU, and I had studied safety and safety management, and so I knew it up here, of course, and I was doing everything I could to help. This was Baxter Labs in Mississippi, and there's a big plant, 1,500 employees there, and it happened over 40 years ago, but I can still remember it pretty vividly. We had won some awards. After I got there, we reduced workers' comp costs. We cut it in half. They'd been paying $1 million a year. We cut it to $500,000 just by doing training and management and things like that. And I remember some of the engineers at the site, they would kind of pull me aside and tease me and say, well, your resume is looking pretty good. You got stuff. So I didn't expect something like this, but my office was kind of centrally located in this large plant. And the supervisor came running to open my door, and his face was ashen. He said, Earl, come quick. We got a serious incident in the dialysis unit. And so I'm hoping it's not too serious, but I followed him to the unit, and there were these tanks that were about 15 feet high, if I were guessing, and they had these stainless steel hoppers that weighed a lot, that were gear driven to the top. And one of the hoppers was stuck at the top of the tank, and a maintenance worker who had been working on that alone, I guess he was in what they call in behavioral safety, the line of fire. He was under the tank when he must have released a link in the chain or something like that. And that hopper came down, and I don't think he ever knew what hit him. I saw one of our safety committee members was trying to do CPR, and I usually spare the details, but I will say, when he pressed his chest, blood gushed out of his mouth, just like that. I think he was gone. And so, we were crushed as well. You know, the guy that was over the department was he was out of the Marines, and he was crying as he, you know, told us that he's on his way to the hospital. We hope he's going to be okay. I knew he wasn't going to be okay. The supervisor had to go tell the widow. OSHA comes in and does their fatality inspection, and so you know, everything after that was really
Real.
crushing to all of us. You know, like I say,
Real.
had the funeral a couple days later. Bud Alexander was 32 years old. He loved to hunt and fish. And by the way, they had 4 kids, you know, so that went with, you know, went without a father. And so I was devastated. I didn't see something like this coming. And so that was when I say that safety kind of went from something I knew up here to in my heart. And I decided that I wanted to do whatever I could, you know, to prevent that from happening again in the future at any place I worked or anytime, you know, and I have a lot of opportunities to do presentations. And so my focus is on improving safety performance, and especially on what they call SIFs, serious injuries and fatalities. You know, that in my heart, I want to try to help organizations, even though for most companies, fortunately, those aren't real common, but, you know, help them not to experience that.
I tell you, I am so thankful for the time that we've got to spend together today. Like I said, I see your passion for what you do. And, you know, as the old saying goes, if you find something that you love and you're committed to, you never work a day in your life. So your enthusiasm and for what you do is contagious. As I said, it obviously had a significant impact on our founder, Steve Davis. And it's just been a real pleasure spending time with you today, Dr. Blair. And I appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule.
Thank you. Likewise, I've enjoyed taking this time to tell a little bit about the experiences.
Yeah. So before we sign off, I want to take just a minute, as they say, to pay the bills. I'd like to thank our friends over at lillipad.com, LILLI pad.com. They have a mobile ergonomic workstation that is really unlike anything else. They created that workstation because they knew remote work happens in a lot of different environments. It's a really neat product. You have no assembly required. You can move it around. You can roll it. You can sit with it. You can stand with it. Even fits under a bed, in a couch, or in a closet. So, you know, if you've got somebody going away like I do to a graduate program, I heard you say you had the connection to West Virginia. My son is starting the Doctorate of Physical Therapy program at Marshall University. So this is going to be a product that is great for his apartment. It's even powerized. Go to lillipad.com and check it out. We so very much appreciate the partnership that they have with Ergonauts. And we really do believe in the product, and we appreciate them supporting our efforts. So on behalf of all the Ergonauts and our founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Steve Davis, again, Dr. Blair, thank you for your time. That concludes this edition of Ergo Algo, and we look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you, Dr. Blair. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.